Okay guys, so this is what we're going to be making today, some squash and stretch text with After Effects. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go create a new text layer, and we're going to put some text in here and just call it bounce. And now we're going to right click on the layer and go create shapes from text, and there's 6 letters, so we're going to duplicate that layer 6 times. So we want to end up with six new layers, one for each letter. Well, first we're going to rename them just to make it a little easier to figure out what's what. And then we're going to open up each letter, the contents. So then we're going to delete everything but that letter. So there's 6 shapes there. So for the B, we're going to delete everything but the B. And then we'll just do all the rest here a little more quickly so it's easier to see. So what we have when we end up is 6 different layers, each with one shape in them. And then what we want to do is move the anchor point for each layer. So we're going to go up here to the pan tool, and then we'll click on each layer and we'll take the anchor point and move it. For each one, we're going to move it to the center down at the bottom. So now we've got 6 shapes with all their anchor points moved. Now we're going to go to the first frame, or turn off all the link restraints. And now we're going to hit S, and we're going to create scale keyframes for all these. Make sure you're on frame 0. Then we're going to do shift page down to go down 10 frames, and we're going to create total of 4 keyframes. And then we'll go back to frame 0, and what we will do is change the Y to 0, and then we're going to go to the second keyframe and change the Y scale to something a little bit bigger. I think here I picked 130, something a little bit bigger. You can play with these numbers just to see how they look. And then we'll go to the third keyframe and make it something slightly less. So here I did 80%, and then the fourth keyframe, we'll leave that alone. Select all the keyframes, choose Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease. Now we're going to preview it, and we're just going to kind of get an idea of what it looks like. So that's the basic thing, but we're going to make it look a little better. So we'll go in and pre-compose each one of these layers, and I'm just renaming them corresponding to the name of the letter. Then I'm going to add markers for each keyframe. You can add that with the star key. So shift page down, and we're just going to add them so it's a little easier to see where the keyframes are. Now we're going to open the first pre-comp, and then we're going to hit U so we can see our keyframes for scale. Then we're going to go to the second keyframe. And then we're going to click on this little button here that says Region of Interests. We're going to outline the letter, and then we're going to go to Composition, Crop Comp to Region of Interest. We'll speed it up here. You want to make sure you're doing this on the second keyframe. We'll go back to the original comp, and you can see the letters are all bunched up, so don't fear, we'll fix that. So now turn back on your guide layer, and then go to frame number 4. So then choose each layer and then just kind of line them up with the guide layer. So BOUNCE here, I'm going backwards, but that doesn't really make any difference. So now you can turn off, you can kind of see what it does when you turn off your original text layer. So that's what it does. So now we're going to make it look a little bit better. We're going to add a warp effect. So go up to Effects and search for Warp and put the warp on the first pre-comp. And we're going to change the warp style to bulge and then the warp axis to vertical. We're going to create 4 keyframes for bend. And the first keyframe is going to be 0 for the bend. And the second keyframe is going to be -30. And the third keyframe is going to be 30, and the fourth keyframe is going to be 0. And then we'll ease the bend keyframes. So you can see here the B looks a little bit better than the rest of the letters, a little bit more squash and stretch, and now we're going to make all the letters look like that. So what we're going to do is just copy warp with Control-C, and then we're going to paste it into the other letters. Just make sure you're on keyframe 0 when you do that. So now we're almost there. So what we're going to do is offset the layers a little bit and just hit Alt page down for each layer, and I picked three frames, but that's what it looks like.